So hello everyone and welcome. It's good to be with you. Let's give everyone just a few moments to make their way onto the call. And if you'd like, you could drop into the chat if you're on Zoom and say hello and let us know where you're connecting from. And maybe in a few words about how you're doing, how you're feeling today. Hello everyone. Welcome. As always, quite the international audience here. Welcome, Byron Bay. I know it's early for you. Aloha to my friends in Hawaii. So if you're just joining, we'll just give everyone another 30, 40 seconds to make their way onto the call. It's good to be with you all again. It seems like it's been a while. Hello, welcome. Hello to my friends in India. Hello. Still a number of you streaming on, so just another 15, 20 seconds and then we'll get started. Nelson, BC, hello. Hello, Nelson. Lovely place. So just another few seconds, everyone. We'll be getting started. It's really good to be with you all. It's been a while. Okay. So I wanted to start today with just a few moments of silence, if that's so okay, where together we could offer our thoughts and our prayers for the safety of all of those who may be in harm's way, to offer a prayer, a piece of our heart really to our world, which could really use it about right now. Okay, thank you. And welcome everyone. I hope you're doing well. You're doing okay in these uncertain and shaky times that we're living in, and where I know many of us are being asked or being required to revision what it is that we're doing here, to clarify the nature of the myth by which we're living, to reimagine the story that's animating us. And the truth is that I know some of us are experiencing some unfamiliar territory, whether we'd call it depression or anxiety, some unnameable longing or grief, a sense of exhaustion, or what we might call loss of energy or loss of soul. And also, though, simultaneously, and especially more recently, there's a sense of possibility that seems to be emerging. Potentiality, a new way of being and participating in our lives and in this world, and one that is more oriented to the heart, to love, to an acknowledgement of how tenuous and how fragile it really is here, and how temporary it is. And there's something about periods like we're in now, where there's been a real engagement with the archetype of the pandemic or the plague, the arrival of the unknown other, which can reveal a doorway, one that's not available actually in times of knowingness and clarity and certainty. And stepping into and through this doorway requires that we slow down, maybe even fall to the ground, to the earth, and remember what it is that's most important to us. what's most meaningful and what's most true, and how we really want to spend our time here. So that when we leave this place, when we're called back home into the world of the beloved, into the cosmos, into the stars, we'll be able to respond with heart to that essential question, really, I guess, that we all meet at the end of our lives. How well did I love? How well did I love while I was here? And not so much did I accomplish all of the items on my to-do list, including my spiritual to-do list, but did I slow down and really live here? Did I see and feel the stars and the moon and really experience the sensuality of this place? Did I speak words of kindness? Did I hold another person when they were hurting? Did I allow myself to be held, by the earth, by a friend, by nature, by the divine? However I've come to conceive of that containing field that is holding us all. And I know that many of us have found ourselves shattered over this last year, with our hearts in pieces, where so much has been dissolved. Who I am and what I'm doing here, what's going to bring meaning to my life, even a restructuring around who I'm spending my time with, the work I'm doing, even where I'm living geographically, and a reorganizing of the body and the psyche that I assumed would never be touched by illness, anxiety, depression, by loss of meaning. So the image that comes to me is one where we're being asked to place all of those shattered pieces, those broken shards of the heart, those scattered pieces of the soul, really on an altar in front of us, inside a special vase, a sacred container, and to be in conscious, embodied relationship with those pieces, and to grieve, which is an essential activity on any deep path of transformation and healing, at least in my experience. To not just rush through the death aspect of the death rebirth journey so that we can quickly get to the rebirth, which of course is very natural. We like that aspect of the journey, the rebirth part, but to take some time also to feel and to grieve and to mourn and to enter into that alchemical process of lamentation and to actually participate in the crumbling, to honor it and what it offers to the soul, to slow down, to fall to the ground, and to enter into a merciful relationship really with the shattered. I mean, this is the invitation, isn't it, from our friends Rumi or John of the Cross or Teresa of Avila or in shamanic dismemberment, certainly Christ on the cross, or the Buddha under the Bodhi tree when Mara appears, which she always will. This being an archetypal unfolding, which we find across cultures and religions and spans of time. This experience of falling apart and being put back together again, only to fall apart once more, but perhaps this time in the service of a deeper integration and wholeness. So before we go too much further, let's do just a short meditation as a way to come into the space together, to ground with the earth and to open together to whatever it is that's wanting to emerge into this unique moment of time and space, into this garden that we find ourselves in together. And you could close your eyes if that feels okay, and just sit in a way where you're comfortable and relaxed, but also at the same time as awake and as aware as you're able. If you can have your feet flat on the floor, that can be supportive with your hands in your lap. And just taking a few slow, deep breaths as a way to fully arrive into this moment. Resting with your nervous system, just really being here with yourself and everyone in the spirit of true friendship. And you could allow your awareness now to fall down at your feet as they make contact with the ground. A sense of your energy and your attention moving downward, rooted and anchored in the earth. You might imagine each of your feet being filled with a soft, yellow golden light, the light of awareness, of consciousness, which is spacious and warm. Noticing any sensations in your feet or at those places of contact where your feet touch the floor. Held and supported in the earth, grounded into this moment. Just allow your awareness to rest here for a few moments. And you could imagine roots growing out of the bottom of your feet, dropping down into the earth, into the mud, into the womb, linking you with that source of wisdom that is the earth, being held by both inner and outer nature, anchored in a deep sense of being home, knowing that you fully belong here, exactly as you are. And let's just rest here together for a few moments, rooted and grounded in the holding of the earth. Somehow together being contained by something vast. As we rest here with the sky above and the earth below, with the sun and the moon, the oceans and the stars. And as you're ready, you could just open your eyes. Okay, thank you. It's so important to take time each day to listen and feel and sense how it is that the soul is reaching out to us, to rest our nervous systems from the constant stimulation, from the adrenaline drip of the collective, and to really give the unconscious a chance to express itself, whether that's through paying attention to our dreams or spending time in nature or meditation, some way of opening a portal to those non-rational parts of the psyche to step outside the matrix of an increasingly digital and disembodied world, one that has in so many ways lost contact, I think, with the imaginal, with the wisdom of the body and the natural world, or in the language of relational neuroscience, a loss of contact really with the poetic wisdom and the embodied sensual flow of emergent right brain knowing. And in these times of psychic and collective transition, where we're still in that liminal middle period, in between the way things were, between what has been and what's beginning to emerge but isn't quite known yet. In these liminal or in-between times, what the Tibetans refer to as bardo. It's really an act of intelligence and also compassion and kindness to slow down and engage our senses, to listen, to take some time each day, not only to ruminate and think about our lives, but to also include nonlinear and non-rational ways of knowing, tending to the more lunar consciousness or the lunar currents in the body and the psyche, and not only those bright solar ways of reflection and perception. To get away from the screens, not now, but in a few minutes. Go out and take a walk and open your senses. Look up at the stars, the trees, the animals, the sky, the mountains, the streams, outer nature. And also to bring some curious, compassionate awareness to the unfolding of inner nature, to the images that come to you during the day and at night in the dream world, to your fantasies and imagination, to your longing and desire, to what or who is coming to visit. To notice and to care about the moods and the emotions and the feelings and the figures that appear, and approach them in the spirit of true friendship. Speak to them, listen to them, feel them. And if you're drawn to express this flow of inner nature, to write a story or a poem about it, get your hands in some clay or some sand, or draw or paint, where you can allow the images, the figures, the voices, and the visions to dance through you and take expression through your body, through your creativity. The idea here is to open a doorway, through which the soul can speak to you, can touch you. Otherwise, we just end up in this really disembodied, overly rational, increasingly digital and abstract relation with life, which can lead to, I think we all know this, can lead to all sorts of psychological and somatic symptoms. And the effect of that over time, at least in my personal and also my clinical experience, is that it can lead to a real depletion of energy, a soul level sort of exhaustion where we're not really living, but just getting through the day. It's more of like an autopilot situation where there's not a lot of vitality, creativity, energy, libido, life. And there are moments in all of our lives when we're going to find ourselves stressed or overwhelmed or lonely or hurt in one of our relationships, scared or worried about our future or for one of our kids or partners or friends, feeling down or bad about ourselves or just unsure what it is that we're really doing here. And the feelings and the emotions may not rise to the level of some sort of psychological diagnosis or what we would call trauma. For many of us, it's less a clinical and more of an existential matter, evoking our relationship, with these essential human concerns such as freedom and meaning, purpose, aloneness, creativity, and even death. We might find ourselves asking questions like, why am I here? What am I doing in this life? Why have I come to this place? What is a relationship anyway? Where am I going to find meaning? Am I alone here? How well am I living? And when it's time to leave this place, how will I look back on my life and how I chose to spend my time here? Did I use my energy and my creativity wisely? Did I allow myself to really see a sunrise, to look up at the stars, to feel the rain, to see the miracle in a snowflake or in the eyes of the one in front of me? And perhaps the most important question of all, how well did I love when I was here? How well did I love? I mean, these are the questions of the second half of life for the most part, which I'm guessing that most of us on this call, this is the stage of life we're in, where the questions begin to shift from what I thought I wanted, what I was taught to want by my family, my teachers, my culture, my religion, by my therapist, my spiritual teacher. But the inquiry begins to shift from what do I want to what does the soul want of me, from me at this stage in my life. And we live in a world and a time where in so many ways we've lost touch with the soul in the ways that it expresses itself as it calls us closer, nearer to the friend or the beloved within, which it does through our dreams and our imaginal life and our longings and our yearnings, and also through what we call our symptoms, our strange moods and the unexplainable aches and pains in our bodies, the synchronicities and the visions that come to us. And this living reality of the soul, opening and caring for the soul, opens us into this whole atmosphere or mandala of the wounded healer, Chiron, and his merry band of travelers. Perhaps we're somehow part of that lineage, coming down through time by way of the Asclepian dream temples and of ancient Greece, where travelers would go, weary travelers, to receive vision and to drink from the water of life. But this isn't only a historical matter. As Chiron and those dream incubation and vision temples are alive inside you right now, infusing your neural pathways and your cells and hidden in the secret chambers of your heart, wired into the strands of your DNA and into the neural circuitry, lighting up this holy human nervous system that we share with one another. Alive and dancing and spinning and twirling inside the secret rooms of the interior castle, to evoke that image given to us by Teresa of Avila. And the foundation of all the inner work that we do, whether we're speaking about personal or psychological healing or a more transpersonal restructuring of our identity and perception, is this capacity to slow down and to bring curious, discerning, holding awareness to our experience, which is the medicine or the tincture that's necessary to melt through billions of moments of habitual consciousness and collective networks of trance, through the intergenerational transmission of trauma and relational wounding of all types. And I think the reality is that most of us weren't trained to practice self-attunement in this way. And our increasingly electronic, digital, and disembodied world doesn't always provide a sensitive and supportive holding environment in which to be a true friend to ourselves. I think one of the most tragic things that I've seen, in my clinical work over the years is how so many of us have lost that basic capacity to be a true friend to ourselves. Many of us, if we're being honest, feel a lot of shame around who and what we are. We're aggressive toward our own sensitivities, vulnerabilities, eccentricities, and have a whole complex network of ways of abandoning ourselves, especially in those moments when we need ourselves more than ever. But here we are, together in this moment. And, in my experience, it's very possible to reorganize all of this, to encode new circuitry, to lay down new grooves in the body and the nervous system, and to become a true friend to ourselves and to life. I mean, it's not only some fanciful metaphysical idea, but one that we see evidenced in the field of relational neuroscience, through the miraculous realities really of neuroplasticity, of that innate capacity of the brain to rewire. And no, it's not easy. And it takes a lot of courage and patience and ultimately a real trust in the wisdom of our immediate embodied experience, which can take time to be a living reality for us, that trust, that courage, that confidence. It's not just learning some new philosophy or magical laws or secrets of the universe or some new groovy metaphysical theories and beliefs. All of that's fine, of course, but it requires a real embodied, intimate relationship with the soul, with the materials of the soul, with the alchemical salt, sulfur, mercury, and lead of the soul, as well as the gold, the silver, the emerald, and the ruby of the philosopher's stone itself. It's not only an ascending path into the light, but also a descending one into the ground. And on a conscious level, of course, what we all genuinely want is to heal, to awaken, to step all the way into this life. Yes, I want that. I really do. I want to heal. And this longing is authentic and so very human and can be honored and respected. And in my experience, there's almost always going to be another part of us or group of parts that simultaneously has an unconscious investment in not healing. Because, on some deep level, we know that if we were to truly heal or awaken, or whatever language we want to use, that it would shatter something and really reorganize the world as we've come to know it. I think there's a deep knowing, and this is often an unconscious knowing, that in the wake of this sort of reorganization, that we'd no longer be able to hold on to and make use of those familiar reference points, those perceptual lenses, those reality tunnels, in the language of Timothy Leary, and ways of organizing our experience, which have been necessary, adaptive, intelligent, from the perspective, especially of a young child who's here right now, with a tender heart and a nervous system that is wired to do whatever it takes to survive and to stay safe. But here we are, and as essential as that felt sense of safety is, as a required neural scaffolding, we might say, there may be a deeper longing in us that's starting to emerge that seems to require a real confrontation with the shadow and with the entirety of our unlived lives. And this confrontation, what it is, it's a relationship, which is what alchemy is all about, is relationship. But this relationship isn't likely to always feel safe at a feeling level. We just can't ask that of the spiritual path, and certainly not of what we might call an alchemical path. I mean, it's intelligent and it's also kind, in my experience, to honor what it is that we're truly asking of ourselves when we step onto a healing or spiritual path, or we get ourselves into therapy or analysis. And what true healing requires, to really honor that what it requires is the unraveling, in a sense, of the world that we've come to know. And to really step into this new reality, may leave us naked and unclothed. We may no longer be able to play it safe on the sidelines. And I think we know this. And this is exciting, of course. But it's also simultaneously a bit terrifying. How could it not be? And so we're all going to have moments when it will feel hot and sticky and claustrophobic, where we start to feel activated and inflamed, when one of our complexes or one of our implicit memories are opened and awakened. Maybe we're not seen the way we want or need to be seen, or we're feeling misunderstood or unfairly judged, or convinced that we failed or that there's something wrong with us. Or we find ourselves in a spiral of shame and rage. Or we're just feeling sad or alone or unsafe. And the question, at least in my experience, isn't so much, how can I transcend my sensitivity and vulnerability in these moments so that these memories, feelings, images, and bodily arousal are never activated again? But rather, how am I going to respond to those inevitable moments when the rug is removed from underneath me? When my vulnerabilities and sensitivities come raging to the surface? Is it possible that the soul is reaching out to me in these moments, not to harm or take me down or to make my life difficult, not only as an obstacle to my path, but as the very path itself? And in a moment of activation, the habitual, conditioned, automatic response, as we all know, we're all very, very familiar with this, is to turn away from ourselves in some way, to bail out of our bodies and to start to get flooded, or to spin out in shame and blame, in some way to abandon ourselves, to attack our own vulnerability, to deny or repress what we're feeling, or to fuse or drown with it, or act it out in some unhealthy way, in the hopes that this will somehow purge it from our system. All of our strategies, that we've built up over a lifetime, which have served an important protective or adaptive function. And so these strategies aren't going to yield easily to our intention to, practice loving kindness and compassion to ourselves. It's really like falling into a trance. It's so automatic, and before we even realize it, we've tumbled down into some sort of hole. We're underground. It's all sticky and fused, and it can feel like we're drowning. And all of these are alchemical processes, actually. But even though these strategies may have been necessary in the past, to protect us from overwhelming emotional and somatic experience that we just didn't have the capacity to metabolize, it's possible, perhaps, maybe, that they aren't required any longer and may actually be keeping us from a full immersion into life, into the intimacy and connection and creativity that we're all longing for. But it's important to remember that there is a cost to allowing these strategies to dismantle. We can't just go in and tear down our wall of defenses. That wouldn't be effective, and nor would it be very kind. So the cost is that we may find ourselves in a totally naked, raw, unclothed, unprotected relationship with life, with the heart. And while we may have some sense of, oh, this is what I really want, there are other parts of us who, just in my experience, don't really see it that way. And so in alchemy, there's this essential process of dissolving that must take place, actually, in order for transmutation to occur. And this dissolution or disillusion, this falling apart, or in shamanic traditions, this psychic dismemberment can express itself through the ending of a relationship or career, for example, or through a depression or a dark night experience, through a spiritual emergency experience, through some unexplainable anxiety or unexpected, confusing physical symptoms, vivid fantasies, dreams, or existentially just through the loss of purpose and meaning, which is so common in our world. And of course, it's one thing to say, oh, I'm sure all of this is happening to me for some higher purpose. But it's another thing altogether to actually live in that with all of the contradictory feelings and somatic and autonomic activation. And at times, even the wisest sounding spiritual aphorisms and metaphysical theories just sort of crumble in the dissolving waters of the alchemical solutio. And that's what this process does. It washes away the known. And even our most powerful spiritual realizations can be washed away by the beloved, by love. I mean, perhaps that's the role of love, actually, in this vaster sense, to wash away the known so that a more integrated, more cohesive rebirth can occur. Okay, so just noting the time here, I don't want to keep you too long, but I did want to let you know, if you're interested in continuing this exploration for me, that we're going to be starting a new online course next week called Alchemical Healing and Accessing the Wisdom of the Sacred Wound, where we'll spend 7 weeks diving deeper into many of these teachings and practices that have become important to me personally and also in my clinical therapeutic work. So we'll drop a link into the chat if you'd like to learn more. If you're on Zoom, if you're watching this on Facebook Live, you can see a post made yesterday or today or tomorrow and get that link. It's mattlicataphd.com/alchemical-healing. And I just wanted to, again, just thank you for spending some time and some of your heart with me today. And I look forward to our paths crossing at some point again, however it is that this life may bring us together. And please take care of yourselves. And we can open the chat here for a moment and say goodbye. And so it's always lovely to be able to spend these moments to you. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, everyone. Please take care of yourselves, and I hope to see you soon. Okay, sending lots of love.